Ferrari pulls off a disaster class as Hamilton is fuming. Is Red Bull already regretting not giving Yuki the seat, and Ollie is ready to bounce back after tough start? Do consider subbing. Let's get into the latest F1 news. Lando Norris has kicked off the 2025 Formula One season in spectacular fashion, clinching victory at the Australian Grand Prix after a thrilling and chaotic race that left fans on the edge of their seats. Norris managed to overcome not just fierce competition from Max Verstappen, but also a series of restarts, a challenging off-track moment, and unpredictable rain conditions to claim the top spot. George Russell secured third place, marking a fantastic start for McLaren. The race was far from straightforward, with only 14 out of the original 20 drivers managing to finish, thanks to numerous slips, slides, and collisions. From the very beginning, the unpredictable weather loomed over the event, following the cancellation of the Formula 2 race due to heavy rain at the Albert Park circuit. As the Grand Prix approached, spectators and racers alike were glued to the sky, hoping for a slight reprieve. Despite the downpour, the 58-lap race commenced as scheduled. However, it wasn't without incident. Rookie Isaac Hadjar faced a heartbreaking moment before the race even started, crashing his car and leaving the grid in tears. Fortunately, the second formation lap went smoothly, and as the race began, Norris swiftly held his lead against Piastri, while Verstappen made his move, executing an impressive maneuver around the outside of Turn 2 to challenge the McLaren drivers. But the drama escalated quickly. Jack Doohan lost control of his car and collided with the wall at Turn 6, prompting the deployment of the safety car. Moments later, Carlos Sainz joined him as he crashed at the final corner, struggling with a massive torque surge. As the race continued past lap 7, Norris wasted no time and accelerated sharply, keeping Verstappen at bay. The top contenders included George Russell, Charles Leclerc, and Yuki Tsunoda as the race unfolded amid the intense weather conditions. By lap 12, the DRS was activated and Verstappen started to climb his way back towards Norris, with Piastri closely tailing behind. Meanwhile, Lewis Hamilton was adapting to his new Ferrari team, all while contending with the slippery track and his rookie race engineer. However, not all was smooth sailing. Verstappen's mistake at turn 11 led to him locking up and conceding second place to Piastri, allowing the McLaren duo to dominate as they secured a remarkable 1-2 formation on lap 17. With a combination of strategy and skill, Lando Norris showcased his racing prowess, battling through both the elements and his competitors to establish a strong lead in the championship standings. The 2025 season has begun with a bang, and fans are eagerly anticipating what will come next after such an adrenaline-pumping start in Melbourne. As the drizzle started to fall during the race, drivers grappled with changing conditions. Leclerc humorously noted that he had a seat full of water, to which his race engineer responded, "Must be the water." It appears not all wisdom from the pits can help with such surprises. Meanwhile, at the front, McLaren teammates Piastri and Norris were locked in a fierce battle. Each pushed the other while trying to navigate backmarkers, beginning with the Haas duo. As Piastri's pace quickened, his race engineer suggested they hold their positions until they could switch to dry tires. Despite his speed, Piastri nodded in agreement, but not without showing his competitive edge. Just as things were heating up, disaster struck for Alonso. His attempts to score points ended abruptly when he lost control of his Aston Martin and crashed into the wall. His race momentarily paused. This incident triggered a flurry of pit stops, with teams scrambling to swap tires, some opting for hard and others for medium compounds. Amid the chaos, penalties were handed out, including one for Bortoleto due to an unsafe release. Back on track, the intensity grew. The safety car came in at the end of lap 41, unleashing a flurry of action. Norris made a quick start, putting distance between him and Piastri, while Verstappen followed closely behind. But with rain looming over the horizon, everyone anticipated how this would change things. As the rain intensified, both Norris and Piastri struggled with potential slips. In a frantic moment, Norris found himself back in first place, while Piastri made an unplanned visit to the grass. Verstappen quickly took his chance, leaving the rest of the field to contend with the slippery conditions. The race resumed for a thrilling 6-lap sprint where Norris and Verstappen battled it out for the lead. Norris made an impressive restart to fend off Verstappen, who was hot on his heels. Despite Verstappen's impressive attempts, Norris held his ground and secured the win by just under a second. In the end, the podium was rounded out by George Russell. The final results reflected the intense competition across the board, with multiple drivers facing challenges throughout the race. As the season unfolds, this race in Melbourne has set the stage for an exciting championship battle ahead. Lewis Hamilton is stepping into uncharted territory as he prepares to debut with Ferrari in the Australian Grand Prix, having qualified in 8th place. This marks a career first for the 7-time world champion, and he's feeling the weight of this significant change. Transitioning to Ferrari after a long-standing career with Mercedes has not been easy for Hamilton. He openly admits that he is still getting used to the dynamics of his new car, the SF25, and isn't fully confident yet. Despite finishing close to his new teammate Charles Leclerc, Hamilton noted that he is still on a steep learning curve, finding the intricacies of the Ferrari toolbox rather challenging. It's been a unique experience for Hamilton, transitioning to a new team after more than a decade with Mercedes. He's slowly feeling more comfortable, yet acknowledges that he has a lot to learn about how to drive the SF25 effectively. The first qualifying session proved to be a test, with Hamilton rallying back from a spin to secure 8th place, narrowly trailing Leclerc. Reflecting on the weekend, he stated, "For me, we're just improving every single lap. It's a big learning curve." He emphasized how different the car feels compared to what he's accustomed to. Adjustments in braking and corner balance have been some of the biggest changes he's faced. Hamilton elaborated, telling reporters, "When Charles went out, he immediately understood how the car behaves while I was still figuring things out throughout the weekend." He acknowledged that he felt he was further along than he actually was, realizing during practice that he still had a ways to go. He expressed his surprise at the complexity of the SF25, noting the shift in balance from high-speed to low-speed corners. Hamilton mentioned, "There's still a ton of tools that I'm still not there on. I'm heavily reliant for the first time on my engineers to guide me through this." This marks a shift from his previous experience at Mercedes, where he would confidently communicate his needs to his engineer. Now, he's exploring uncharted territory and must rely on the expertise of his new team. While the journey has been challenging, both he and the Ferrari team are optimistic about the future. With the Australian Grand Prix on the horizon, Hamilton is bracing himself for a potentially difficult race, especially given the rainy conditions expected. The combination of a new car and the uncertainties of wet weather could add another layer of complexity to his debut. As Hamilton navigates this new chapter in his illustrious career, fans and critics alike will be watching closely to see how he adapts, competes, and ultimately finds his place within the legendary Ferrari team. Whether he can translate his immense talent into success with his new ride remains to be seen, but one thing is clear: Hamilton is ready to embrace the challenge ahead. Lewis Hamilton, the 7-time F1 world champion, is facing a unique challenge as he prepares for the Australian Grand Prix. Concerns about impending wet conditions on Sunday have him feeling a bit uneasy, especially considering his limited experience with his new Ferrari. He expressed that if the rain comes, it could be a shock to the system, highlighting his hesitation due to not fully understanding the dynamics of his car yet. Hamilton candidly remarked, "Frickin', I've never driven the car in the wet," a sentiment that resonates with many drivers who know how crucial experience is under these conditions. Hamilton admitted he isn't even sure where the wet switch is or which buttons to press in the car. "I don't know which buttons I need to use tomorrow, so it's all new to me," he said. This unfamiliarity extends to the braking system too, as Ferrari utilizes Brembo brakes, which he hasn't used in a long time. He mentioned, "How will they perform in the wet? I don't know if they're glazed or what settings I'll need to adjust with this car. It's all very different." While many see rain as an equalizer in motorsport, Hamilton's situation is anything but ordinary. With a P8 qualifying position, he would typically look forward to a wet race to capitalize on the unknowns. But this time, he faces a steep learning curve, just 3 laps to grasp how his car performs in wet conditions before the race begins. He reminisced about his past experiences in the rain, saying, "I've got a bad memory, so I don't actually remember driving here." Max Verstappen qualified 3rd for the Australian Grand Prix, a position that Red Bull advisor Helmut Marko has deemed ideal, especially with rain expected on race day. This weekend has revealed underlying issues for Red Bull, particularly with tire overheating in the final sector, an ongoing problem that surfaced during their testing phases. Marko remarked on Red Bull's struggles with the RB21 car in Australia, noting that Verstappen's performance was hindered by tire issues that affected their overall pace. After a lackluster start during preseason testing, with Verstappen placing 5th and 7th in the opening practice sessions, the team faced scrutiny heading into qualifying. Despite this, the reigning 4-time world champion managed to secure a spot just behind McLaren's Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. Post-qualifying, Marko expressed satisfaction with the results, stating that Verstappen was in close contention with Norris until that critical last sector, where tire performance faltered. Yet, there's optimism with the expected rain, as Marko believes this could create opportunities for Verstappen to capitalize on unpredictable conditions during the race. Reflecting on his position, Verstappen shared his surprise at qualifying in the top 3, especially considering the difficulties he encountered earlier in the weekend. He felt a deeper connection with the RB21 car in qualifying, suggesting that the team made important adjustments that allowed the car to perform better, even if they still had some pace to find. Verstappen acknowledged the sensitivity of the tires at the Australian circuit, particularly through the high-speed corners, and he felt happy with how he extracted performance from the car during qualifying. Heading into race day, he remains poised, ready to take advantage of any potential shifts in weather and track conditions. As the drivers prepare for a race filled with uncertainty, all eyes will be on Verstappen to see if he can leverage his starting position and navigate the challenges that may arise from the anticipated rain at Albert Park. The questions remains, can Red Bull resolve their tire issues and convert a 3rd-place start into a podium finish? The stage is set for an exhilarating race in Australia. As the race in Australia approaches, the spotlight is on Red Bull, particularly on Max Verstappen and his teammate Liam Lawson. Today was a bit faster in terms of performance, but as Verstappen noted, it's still not fast enough. Yet, the positive takeaway is being ahead of competitors like Ferrari and Mercedes, which is commendable for the team. Unfortunately, it was a rocky start for Lawson during his first full season in Formula One. He fell short in Q1, finishing in an unflattering 18th position. This disappointing outcome followed a troubling final practice session where his car developed an engine issue. Lawson found himself struggling with his laps, managing just ahead of the Haas drivers who didn't set a time at all. Reflecting on the qualifying session, Lawson shared insights with Sky F1. He acknowledged that they anticipated a challenging start, mentioning, "The first laps we expected to be off the pace." A mistake on the second lap disrupted their plan to build momentum throughout the session. Lawson noted how close he was to improving his lap time. He was about half a second up before encountering difficulties in the final sector. The young driver continued, "I just had a snap through the high speed. I think that overheated the tires." He realized how crucial missing out on P3 was for his performance, as it contributed to his struggles during qualifying. As the racing weekend unfolds, Lawson's lack of practice time could weigh heavily, impacting his ability to push through the competition effectively. He remains optimistic, stating that they had the car in a good window and the lap was, overall, perfectly fine, despite the setbacks. In another corner of the paddock, speculation surrounds Verstappen's future with McLaren. A rumor has floated around, especially after his comments regarding his hefty salary, leading to jokes about his potential move to their team. However, the idea seems far from reality right now. The anticipation for the Australian GP continues to grow. Will Red Bull resolve their tire issues and transform their current positioning into a successful race? Fans are eager to find out as the stage is set for yet another thrilling F1 encounter. Ollie Bearman faced a challenging start to his Formula One journey at the Australian Grand Prix. Unfortunately, his weekend kicked off with a significant setback due to a gearbox issue that prevented him from qualifying. In the lead-up to the race, Bearman displayed a candid self-critique of his driving. After encountering 2 crashes across 3 practice sessions, he expressed disappointment in his performance. His first mishap was a high-speed crash at turn 10 during the first practice session. This accident forced him out of the second practice entirely. Then, during the third practice session, Bearman slid into the gravel at turn 11, incurring additional damage. As he approached qualifying, Bearman's challenges continued. After leaving the pit lane, he had to swiftly return to the garage upon discovering a gearbox problem, which cut his qualifying session short. This unfortunate series of events meant that both Bearman and his teammate, Esteban Ocon, were set to occupy the last spots on the starting grid for the race. Despite these early struggles, Bearman received support from his team principal, Ayao Komatsu, who provided only encouragement. The young driver emphasized that he was his own biggest critic and acknowledged the importance of not dwelling on these issues. He reflected on the demanding nature of the circuit, noting how 2 seemingly minor mistakes led to major consequences that impacted his entire weekend. Now, as the team looks ahead, the spotlight is on Bearman. How will he bounce back from this rocky start? Will the lessons learned from this weekend help him improve in future races? The Australian Grand Prix serves as a sobering reminder of the challenges that come with racing at the elite level in Formula One. Stay tuned as we follow Ollie Bearman's journey and see how he adapts and grows in the upcoming races. Clumsiness and setbacks are part of the racing world, and recent experiences have brought that to the forefront. Despite issues like gearbox troubles during qualifying, the important takeaway is that the season is still young. It's crucial not to let a couple of challenging days dictate our outlook. The team is facing more struggles than expected, especially compared to their performance in Bahrain. There's a lot of work to be done on car performance, and unfortunately, a crucial part of that effort has revolved around running with only 1 car over the weekend. Reflecting on his performance, it's clear that self-criticism plays a significant role in growth. The driver acknowledges he's his own toughest critic and feels disappointed in himself. But amidst the setbacks, he has received nothing but encouragement from his team, indicating a strong spirit of resilience. Shifting gears, let's talk about Ollie Bearman. After experiencing a high-speed crash during FP1, he emerged unscathed, showcasing the importance of safety in the sport. Unfortunately, he couldn't participate in FP2 due to the repairs that weren't completed in time. On a lighter note, Bearman humorously expressed he's had enough of competing against Lewis Hamilton, especially after several intense duels early in the season. His candidness highlights the pressures and competitive nature that young drivers face when going head-to-head with seasoned veterans like Hamilton. Meanwhile, the F1 grid welcomes a new tech enthusiast, stepping into the shoes of the retired Sebastian Vettel. This self-proclaimed nerd is sure to bring fresh perspectives and insights into the technical aspects of racing. In an exciting development, Haas has revealed its latest VF25 model. This vehicle represents an evolution in design, packed with intriguing features aimed at enhancing performance as they gear up for 2025. As we eagerly anticipate the challenges that lie ahead in the Australian GP, we keep a close watch on the weather forecast, strategies for potential wet conditions, and how driver rivalries play out in what promises to be an enthralling race weekend. The excitement of F1 continues to build, so stay tuned as we delve deeper into the intricacies of each race and the stories that shape this thrilling sport.